So welcome everybody this is actually one of the last big conversations that we will have as a group before we go tomorrow into mirroring something back and looking at next steps. And this will be about, the title is Uncommon Spaces, Center and Periphery. And I wanted to take us back for a moment to the opening panel where we were thinking about what the role of festivals can be in transforming societies, in creating more democracy, in fighting authoritarianism or rising fascism, all these kind of things. And often you see that, for example, cities are an island within a country. They're oftentimes politically quite different, more mixed. Which is kind of a kickoff of thinking of what does it mean also when you move with art and festivals into rural areas. If we keep on thinking about how festivals are spaces that gather people, that connect to people, that can potentially impact also on people's behaviors, thinking, belief systems, etc. And I think also in the 7 days, the conversations that we have been having around all these words, where we've been breaking down these words like sustainability, care, etc. This is also in this conversation coming back, like what is center, what is periphery, what does it mean if we use these terms, what value do we give to ourselves? And also there's a lot of people sitting here because we will kick off the conversation with an initiative that is happening currently in Spain, which is a network, Territorio, of residency spaces or art organizations or festivals which are happening in these rural areas. But I think one of the things that the Festival Academy is trying to do is also decentralize spaces or democratize spaces. And, like, when you take yourself as a center of attention and you would close your eyes and you would think about yourself and you imagine yourself in the center, what surrounds you, right? And here we are, again, a community of people coming from 35 different countries. So we wanted to make the work that has been happening in uncommon spaces visible in the space also. So you see how many people of this group are doing this kind of work, and probably many of you who are sitting on this side are also thinking, but I'm also doing that. So there is really a possibility to engage in the conversation again. You can leave from here if you want, you can come to here. Actually, the idea was to do it in a kind of fishbowl facilitation, but which would have been visually center and periphery, but which is not really possible within this space. But also to decentralize a bit the conversation, not have one speaker, but get a lot of perspectives. Also, the idea of when we were talking, for example, why Julia is here is because Edinburgh is a whole festival city, so how do you deal with that? And again, the challenges that come with maybe really being in the center, or how do we perceive all these kind of things? So Gerardo, we start with you, and then we go from there to other people.
Hello, I'm Gerardo Salinas. It's nice to see you again after yesterday. Yesterday was beautiful and heavy too. But I want to tell you a little story, and I think it's important to understand territory and everything. When I came to Europe 27 years ago, I fell in love with two things. The first one was artistic field, was incredible, the theaters, the companies, the infrastructure, everything. And the second one was I'm in Belgium, in Brussels, of Antwerp. There are more or less 180 nationalities living together. And for me, it was incredible to have all the visions of this. On one side, we have a artistic field, the potential fabric of telling stories. At the other side, we have the stories from all the world. And we are coming to Europe, people from the periphery or from the ex-colonies, you know, looking for a better future, for safety. We are, without knowing, we are following our resources because of the colony and everything. And we are coming and we are bringing, and the cities are becoming a kind of campfires. And we are following the lights, and we come in the campfires, and when you are coming to the fire, the first thing that you do is you tell a story. And we are telling story to each other. We are meeting each other with people from 180 nationalities. Wow, a big potential to rewrite the global narrative, to create a new one. But very soon, I discovered that the first thing was not interesting in the second one. The artistic field has no space for migrant or for people as me, of other people. This I go with my story very quick. This the only thing that I found was a little funding for community arts. I love community arts, but I was not planning to make community arts. I want to make arts. And the first thing that we did with a couple of people was to stop to fight with each other for the crumbles of the money to make community arts, that they put us the label community arts, and was not good for the distribution. Not good because it was not art, it was something else, it was a process. And we say we want to ask the money anymore. We come together, we make a cooperation, and from the cooperation we choose the form as festival because it's a very quick strategy to have visibility. And we made this festival for years, MAF. And the colleague from Helsinki yesterday was talking about to ending projects. After 15 years, we stopped with the festival and we changed the festival in a cooperation. The still exists, WIPCOP. But another moment I tell you about WIPCOP. And I went to work in the KVS, is a Royal City Theatre from Brussels. From there, my position became one of the biggest companies from Belgium, and I went to Latin America this time as a curator from a big institution. I felt the power that I had. I became a gatekeeper. And for a lot of us to come into Europe is the only way to have a career, to participate in the economy. Was again the same. The asymmetrical position of the neocolonialism in the arts, when we came to say, okay, you are good, you are not good, you are coming to us, you're not. And with a lot of people, colleagues from the diasporas in Europe, from Latin America, and people, professionals in Latin America, we created a kind of cooperation too. Proximamente is the name. We exist already for 7 years to create, again, another way to create a program together with a kind of deconstruction of the figure of a curator. And we try to have a new conversation with the industry. In the two projects, in Proximamente and WIPCOP, the center is in the position in the economy of our field. And the last one is when we were doing the Proximamente, we are working together with 8 Latin American countries and partners from Europe. And there was a lot of people from Spain asking to participate. They say, okay, we share a lot with Latin America, why not? And we were thinking about that, but the situation is such a difference. The reality in Latin America, the distance, the economy, the colony, everything, that was very dangerous for our project to have Spain in our cooperative. And we were thinking for years and looking for the window to create something, such a project as Proximamente with people from Spain. And then we have the possibility, next year is in Belgium, Europalia. It's a kind of art project, Biennale, with Spain as the main guest. And we make the proposition to this big festival. They wanted to create in the beginning a festival with the big names from Spain. We made the proposition to create a window to show different practice, not in the usual suspects from Spain, and to together to change the narrative about what we are thinking that is Spain in Belgium. The idea, and I will stop, I think I'm talking a lot again, is we are not working with the idea of peripheric. We are thinking that if you define yourself as a peripheric place, you are defining your identity through the relationship with the center. For us, it's important because of that we choose the name territory, to say that your identity is the place or the spot where you are working, the ecosystem, the geography, the people, the history, but also your relationship with the center. The peripheric character of your institution is also one of the layers of your identity, but it's not the main one. And we are creating now, together we made a program with different organizations and partners, very beautiful. I will tell you by night, I don't want to take more time, at the same time that I'm playing music with my box by night. I will tell you about the 11 organizations and spaces, very unique, and I think it's the last thing is, in all the story from an immigrant with very weak papers and position till this moment, the main thing is to come together with people, to work together, to become strong together, like Ubuntu. You exist because I see you. And it's the same thing, and now it's the last one, is I was using, and it's very important for me to share that, I'm come from the struggles of the organizations of human rights in Latin America, and they have to fight in the dictatorships, the very, very non-equal positions, and very dangerous positions, and they develop very beautiful ways to reach your goals. And I was using all the time things that I learned there. We, the immigrant, the diasporas, we are bringing a lot of know-how, and maybe we can use it in this context to find a better ways to connect and to change the narratives.
Thank you, Eduardo. And I think it's, what did I say, Gerardo? I said Eduardo. It's like I'm mixing up all the names. And I think the question of I see you is actually interesting because there's different people of Territoria in the room, if I'm not mistaken. If you, just to kind of maybe, Isabel we know with the Arbola Festival. Maybe you can just say your name and where you are located.
Mi nombre es José Ramón Hernández, vengo de Ocicán Vivero de Creación y el Centro Cultural Espacio Afro de Madrid.
Okay, from Madrid. And is there somebody you also know from Territorio?
Hello, my name is Mikołaj Bielski. I'm come also from Madrid. The place is Replica Teatro. It's a center for research and exhibition, investigation.
And then behind Lorenzo, I think, there's also a Territorio.
So My name is Ahmed Benatia, and I'm coming from the south of Spain, near the Strait of Gibraltar. It's called Algeciras, my town, where I live. And we have a space there, it's called Vox Levante, which is a center for performing arts, which we are working with the region of the Strait of Gibraltar.
Okay, great, thank you. And I also wanted to say that Jenny Villa is with us, who has a Island Connect residency project. I'm not gonna let you talk now, but it's just to make visible in the space but also because many of the people are staying for the festival, and you have many connections to possibilities to meet. And so if you want to know more also from these people, what they are doing, this is absolutely possible, and you know who they are. It's not Island Connect, I'm sorry. Which one is it then?
We're setting up a network of people who live and work on islands. But I also have 2 festivals in Mallorca, and it's about living in the periphery, in somewhere that is not connected to me.
Okay. So there's a lot of people in the space who have something to say about this. There's somebody else?
I'm Idoia Zabaleta, my name is Idoia. I'm also part of Periphery, and I'm running a space not so far away from here, in the countryside, in a small village in Álava, in the south of Basque Country. Asala is the name.
Okay, great, fantastic. And we also have, of course, Joaquin, who is our participant, who has his festival. So maybe, Joaquin, why is it important for you to be part of Territorio? And then maybe this is a question that we can also ask the other people, if you agree, Tobile. Like, for example, Hadi, why is it important to work in the desert with what you are doing? Philip in Zimbabwe. And also, George, what does it mean to work in the Palestinian territories, which actually are not defined? Which is another understanding of territory and periphery and center, I think.
Hola, soy Joaquín. Coordino un festival. I'm gonna speak in Spanish, okay? Lorenzo, you can. Can I?
It will. We are many to speak in the space. I understand. Yeah, we will need to translate it, right? So.
Yeah, thank you. Coordino un festival en un pueblo de Albacete, de donde yo soy, Villamalea. I'm running a dance festival in a small village in Albacete, Castilla-La Mancha.
Agora ya tengo.
Desde hace 4 años.
The last 4 years.
Y en relación a territorio, para mí, bueno, yo vengo ya pensando, el nombre del festival es Paisaje. The name of the festival is Paisaje, Paysage, Landscape. Y no puedo no hablar del contexto para hablar de este festival.
And I can't not talk about the context if I want to talk about this festival.
Entonces, mirando como a la palabra de cerca, de paisaje, ¿no? Y preguntándole, dime cosas, palabra.
Then looking very closely to the word landscape or paisaje, I had to investigate further what that is.
Y precisamente mirando yo la palabra, pensé, claro, ante un paisaje no se puede solo mirar, ya formas parte de ese paisaje, ¿no?
So I think that looking at paysage, looking at a landscape, you cannot only look at it, you are actually part of it.
Sí, ante un paisaje siempre se es partícipe, siempre estás participando de un paisaje.
You are a participant of a landscape.
Entonces, para mí es súper interesante pensar la idea de centro y periferia en un pueblo, donde está la plaza del pueblo en el centro.
For me, it's very interesting to think about the idea of center and periphery in a little village where there's always the square in the center of the village.
Y claro, para identificar el centro de algo, ese algo tiene que estar delimitado antes.
To identify the center of something, this something has to be have their limits very clear.
Entonces, con paisaje estoy pensando mucho cómo movilizar las fronteras, cómo ensanchar.
So with paisajes, I'm really trying to think of how can I change the borders, how can I make it kind of wider, bigger.
No solamente a nivel espacial, sino también de la imaginación, de las representaciones, de los discursos que nos atraviesan, ¿no?
Not only in like the physical, geographical point of view, but also from the mental, from the imaginary space that it can bring.
Y por ejemplo, un ejemplo muy concreto, los 3 primeros años del festival lo hicimos en un espacio, solo un espacio, en las afueras del pueblo, en el campo.
On the three first years of the festival, they used only this one space outside of the urban area of the village, more like in the countryside side of the village.
Y la gente criticaba mucho eso, no le gustaba nada.
And everybody criticized it. It didn't like people.
Porque estaba lejos.
Because it was too far away.
Entonces la gente venía en coche y se liaba un jaleo para aparcar.
Everyone was coming like with the cars, and then it was very complicated. There was no space for parking. There was confusion.
Y, poco a poco comenzaron a venir caminando y es precioso porque se arma como una fila de hormigas del centro del pueblo hasta el festival.
And little by little they started coming walking, and then you could see like a trail of ants coming from the urban to the countryside of the village.
Y ahora que hemos conseguido que la gente venga caminando, hemos puesto el festival por el pueblo.
Now that we managed to get the people coming walking, we decided to put the festival back in the center of the village.
In order to mobilize also the boundaries in a conceptual way. Otro ejemplo muy divertido es el mercado del pueblo, el mercado central, o sea, el mercado que ponen.
Another interesting example is that the central market of the village that they have.
El gobierno del PSOE que ha estado estos años lo sacó del centro y lo llevó por fuera del pueblo.
The PSOE, like is the center-left government party, took it out from the center and took it a bit to the outskirts of the village.
Y el pueblo lo criticó muchísimo.
And everybody criticized that a lot.
A lot. The people didn't like that. Ahora el PP ha entrado al ayuntamiento y ha puesto el mercado en el centro.
Now the right-wing government came into the city municipality government and took it back to the center.
Entonces es muy interesante con el festival pensar desde dentro cómo estamos corporalmente ensanchando estas ideas, ¿no?
For the festival, it's interesting to think how, with our bodies, we are engaged in this enlargement or the direction movements of center and periphery.
Y dos ejemplos muy concretos también. El año pasado hicimos en la bodega del vino, que es preciosa, una presentación donde la gente entraba, estaba su copa de vino y veía bailar a Laila Tafur.
Last year they have done something that they work with the winery bodega, like this place where they make the wine and they have these big houses. They brought the dance there to this place where the people drink the wine.
Sí, y esto fue como muy asombroso para la gente. Nunca había visto la bodega, a no ser que vayas a trabajar en la bodega.
And for that was very strange. They brought a lot of strangeness because nobody has ever gone there. Only the people that work there. So it was strange to the people to go to this factory space.
Y bailar para el pueblo. Yo soy de allí y me fui de allí con ganas de irme. Y ahora es un gesto de reconciliación este festival, ¿no?
And also to dance in this village, for him, he has gone out of the village, and now he's coming back, and for him is an act of reconciliation with the village.
Y también está la cuestión de qué es el bailar, en relación a desde la danza más reconocible hasta la que se escapa de los parámetros más convencionales. Estamos también ahí tirando de eso.
And also in terms of what kind of dance, which kind of dance, from the most like conceptual to the other different kinds of dance, where they're also moving within this spectrum.
And I say that because the proposal that we did in the Bodega del Vino was the more abstract proposal in the festival, but because that, por este contexto y porque lo envinamos y porque fue precioso con esta relación, le gustó muchísimo a la gente.
Well, in the end of the day, with this context and with the wine, this was a situation that was new to the people, and they ended up liking it very much.
Y otra cosa, lo que hacemos en el centro, en la plaza del centro, lo que hacemos es la fiesta de clausura, que esto es importante.
And another
Fiestaca.
a final thing to say, that we really do the closing party. That's a very important moment in the city center square.
Y es importante porque, por ejemplo, este último verano, en la fiesta de la última edición, días después una persona me escribió y me dijo: por un momento me puse a llorar porque nunca había visto tanta gente, tantos animalitos diferentes en la plaza del pueblo.
And someone wrote them a few days later to say that they were very emotional, and that at a certain point they start crying because they haven't seen such a variety of people, or that's a variety of different fauna in the square at once.
Ya sé, este es un chico marica. Y esto para mí fue muy importante porque yo he pasado una adolescencia y una infancia, pues ya os podéis imaginar.
And that was coming from a gay queer guy, and for him, of course, it was very emotional to see that because he had to leave the city because of that. So to hear someone's proud of that and stay in the city is beautiful.
Do you mind if I step in? Hi, for those that are new in the room, I'm Tobile Mapanga. I come from South Africa. I'm feeling like my ears are, I feel like I'm in an airplane. But just co-facilitator, but also supposed to be somewhat facilitating this group that I don't want to speak for at all. But it's interesting to me, it's also how we are able to talk about these terms of center and periphery when my sense is that we don't like these definitions, we don't like these barriers, we don't like these borders. And it's interesting that today I chose to wear this t-shirt that I love very much, and I'm so grateful to all the people that have said to me, this is a great t-shirt, because there are many ways that we can think of center and periphery, and why I wanted to jump in is I wanted to invite my friend over here, George, who comes from Palestine, a territory that is being invaded, consumed, erased, all at the same time, but also to center the idea that even in the opposite direction, because I think also when we sit here and we think about talking about these things, we're thinking about like, who has the power and who doesn't. Is that I'm sure, George, for you don't feel like you have any kind of power, but if we talk about the politics of whose story is more important, whose war is more important. There's something else that's going on. I said to somebody earlier this week that I didn't care about the Russian invasion on Ukraine, because as an African, on a continent that is bigger than most, except for Asia, nobody cares about what's happening on mine. And so I'd like to pass to what feels like from my continent is the center. But there are, as my t-shirt says, Sudan is burning, DRC is burning, Mozambique is burning, Ethiopia has been burning for years. My continent has been on fire for centuries. So, George.
Thank you. Okay, again, I'm George. I'm from Bethlehem. It's in the West Bank of Palestine. There are a lot of things that we can talk about, and the idea of feeling that inequality is the most important thing that we Palestinians suffer from. When people looks at you, the occupiers looks at you that you are from a lower criteria, you are not even humans for them. This is the most powerful and most thing that makes us very angry of that. For sure, we don't have the power or the same power, let's say, to defend our land, but we have something more important, that the belief that we are the owners of this land, that they are stealing from us. It's very hard to live there, but we keep hoping that one day we will not feel this inequality, and that we feel that we are equal like anybody else in the world. We know that the center and, let's say, the big countries who are leading the world, they are playing a vital role in that. And their baby, the occupation, it's going to apply or to implement their plans because they want this area to stay in such not a safe space for people to live. So people will leave by themselves and they go somewhere else. And this is the idea of getting more land, creating more refugees around the world, not only from Palestine and from all different countries in the Middle East, like in Syria and Sudan, Iraq, and also many other African countries. The idea is that our lands is it is very rich with culture, with identity, with a lot of this relation between you and your land. Nobody will understand it except you are really living it. And this is the way that we that lets us continue to live in our land. For us, like the cultural workers, let's say, it's much harder also to work in such violence space because they always looks at you that you are the most important, like let's say, the first defenders of the identity. So they want also to stop you in all the ways. That's why many shows, many artistic events are being cancelled at the last moment. Many festivals are been invaded during the festivals. Many artists are in the Israeli jails nowadays for practicing their arts. They didn't do anything. My colleague Khader, who is a dancer and at Baladi, the group that I run also, that you see, he was one of the dancers in the video that you saw before two nights. He's now in the jail for no reason. Since 1 year, since March 2024. So it's 1 year. And he was with me. We were going back from the university, from Birzeit University, which is not very far from Bethlehem, but we passed this checkpoint and they stopped us and they asked for the identities and started shouting and telling bad words to us. And then they took Khader for no reason, and we don't know anything about him until now. And they keep giving him, the administrative detention, which is a very old British, what we call it, like it was from the British mandate that they can arrest you for no reason, for security reason, and detain you. That's, yeah, Israel is doing that also for no reason, because they don't have anything to say. So they say you are in administrative detention, and they keep doing that each 4 months. And last Monday, they give him another 4 months, and we don't know why until now. So if I keep speaking, it will take a long of time, but you can imagine the unfairness and the inequality that we are living in just because we are living in our lands for no reason.
Yeah, and I think it's also what is important is that, you know, the power of being able to tell your stories, or your stories to be in the center or the periphery, is while you are being cancelled in so many of the centers, actually, at this point. I'm also wondering what the possibilities are, again, of the work that we are doing in the peripheries that sometimes maybe can have more impact. And I think it's maybe interesting to move also to your neighboring country, Amman, Jordan, not the country Jordan, but the work that Hadi is doing not only in Amman, but also like with the festival in the periphery and
in the country.
Yeah, because it's also related to what is going on in Palestine, because you have a lot of
Yeah, I will not start this conversation without continuing on what Josh said. So I will just introduce myself and continue. So hello, my name is Abdel Hadi. You can call me Hadi. I am an artist, curator, director of a contemporary dance festival in Jordan. And recently I started to become really interested in hosting and organizing artistic residencies. So I am Palestinian, from both father and mother, so I can also tell you about the other Palestinians who left Palestine to Jordan. That the one that it's between us. They're called that the alternative country for Palestinian refugees. That was the plan, not what we thought, because when we left, we had something like they were like this agreement. It's called the right of return. So they give us papers and numbers, and really family science. So we knew that we will return, but we will never return. So Jordan is it's a closed country. Closed, I mean locked. I mean there is no sea. I don't know how to say it in English, but we have no sea, and landlocked. Thank you. So Palestine, Iraq, Syria, Saudi Arabia, and Egypt by a small boat. The Red Sea we go. I said we don't have a sea, but we have a small boat, so we go to Egypt. So, do you know how important is that? Because you lived it, many people, live it. That how important is that when you travel to each other countries by car or bus? This option, by car, by bus, by train, by tram. So this option, in my opinion, is very important. Very, very, very important for art and culture, for economy, for many things in different level. And here where I think Jordan is isolated. So let's start from that. We are really, really isolated, even from the Arab world. So one important question I was asked during this atelier, and I have it a lot. When you curate, who are your, what territory is your focus? Of course, Arabs, I like them to come, but they are the less percentage. And I will say why. Jordanian is almost not in the festival. Then the easiest is Europe, and I make so much effort when it comes to Asia and Latin America. But why? It's absolutely economical and mobility issue. It's so difficult to bring Arabs to country. It costs a lot, even if they don't take artistic fee. Even if they don't take artistic fee, it still costs so much. So this is one. But when it comes to other countries, it's so easy to finance it because they have systems and they press a button, and they come to you, which is interesting, But this is something like we are struggling with. And that brings us to another presentation I did to you, that we had the First Dance Company and the First Dance Festival. But this has a much deeper meaning. What does it mean to have a festival and the First Company? That means there is no scene. That means there is no dancers. So there is no dancers. This is where I came to the thing when I programmed there is no Jordanian production. It takes time. But it will be so easy if I go to Syria or Palestine or to Iraq, to do these exchanges and to have more Arab dancers, and we co-create and we create together. So with this idea in mind, of course, residencies and education is very important. So when I create, I don't bring projects just to perform and to leave. This doesn't interest me a lot because we don't have the luxury for this, and it's not really beneficial. So I always like works to come, and while we are having this conversation with the artist or the institution, I always have this kind of this open topic about what we can do together in the future. I feel like this is something very interesting. And I always think of capacity building and teaching, but from both sides, not also. I am very aware also about the thing that we just don't want to have so much information, and we need to be very critical about that. So to do this, we don't have so much power in the land, in Jordan, to talk about contemporary practices because it's still new and we are in the experimental phase. That needs somebody, like me and the team and the people who works in the field to be so sensitive. And censorship sometimes is there. If I want to, to accept it or not, it's there, because it's kind of an alien form still. There is so much sensitivity from the people, and there is so much intelligence in the festival. And this sensitivity sometimes also makes me, when I create work or select work, to be in this, in the hiding mood. I'm not always open. And that made me think so much, how can I really do something without censorship? And this is where the desert project comes. So we started this project last year. That was our first time. We had a number of artists, around 18, from Latin America and from Jordan. We feel like we have so much similarity. And we wanted to discover on this similarity, and we think that they are really crazy and warm like us. So, and And whatever we were telling them, I mean, in the meeting, can we do this? They were saying yes. Can we do that? They were saying yes. So it's incredible how they push an idea with you. I mean, in my experience in that residency, so we didn't want a censorship, really. We wanted to do everything for the first time in our life. So we went, all of us, we isolated ourselves in the desert, and we were very aware that because there is a war in Palestine, it's really, the energy is so tense. It's so tense there. We were telling the artists, like, let's go to have a retreat. We were focusing on that, and let's have a process-oriented work. Let's not have censorship. Whoever want to collaborate, collaborate. If somebody want to research, research. If somebody want to sleep, sleep. And that ended up one of the best projects I ever had. I like it, and I am more attached to it, much more than the festival even, to be honest. Because the festival is older, Studio 8 is even older, but this project is the one I feel like I want to work and to give so much energy in. And I feel like we are not disconnected, like it created a sense of network and friendship and familyship in a very safe and no censorship. And here then I felt like, oh my God, I'm not organizer anymore. I am not a social worker anymore. Really, I felt like I am an artist, a human, working with other artists, a human, and that's it.
Thank you so much, Hadi. And if I can, my leader, Philip, a man who comes from Zimbabwe. And I want to preface before, because Philip doesn't know what I'm going to say, but Philip comes from a country which a lot of people know his ex-president as a monster. And there's a, for me, always an interesting thing is that Robert Mugabe became the person that he was because he fought so hard for what he was fighting for, and it became a dangerous thing to be who he was. And it's interesting that for me, when I met Philip and I encountered his festival, it was about preserving, conserving, trying to bring life back to traditional forms. When we talk about center and periphery, when we talk about resources, when we talk about money, when we talk about, because I don't believe resources and money are the same thing, there's something about also not being concerned with the outside. So Philip, if you, I don't know, if you've got anything to add to this conversation as somebody who comes from a place that was one of the first African countries that tried to play in this idea of democracy, and then ended up in a situation where when you go into the stores in Zimbabwe, we laugh about this as the Africans in this room, there's no money in the ATMs, there's maybe one can of something on the shelves, yet Philip does a festival that really, really treasures locality, territory, culture. So Philip, do you have a mic?
Yes. Thank you so much. My dream was nothing but to engage people in cultural issues. Why? I realized that most people could not realize that culture is one of the pillars of economy. They thought when we are talking about economy, we should do other things like in the field, in the mines, anywhere where they thought they could actually raise income. But here and there, I finally learned that culture for us is but just a minefield, though we were meant not to realize that through different experiences that we encountered. We were meant to believe that culture is crude, culture is backward. Remember, we are, or I am, from an indigenous cultural group which cherishes its cultural values. But when there was this that they call wind of change, they brought in new ideas which were meant to convert and bribe the local way of thinking. So it was in 2013 when I had this vision, this thought, where I said, we need to reset both local, global mindset. Resetting is one of the most fundamental tasks, because resetting implies a lot of work. You need to convince. But to convince someone who was also convinced, indoctrinated, can be a very energy-consuming task. So I had to say it's a call. It was a call. So I had to say a single soul can start a revolution. Then those who will listen will be your comrades in arms. So I started a festival which was focused on culture restoration. We were redefining the economies from a cultural perspective. Remember, when they said culture was crude, on the other hand, someone was stealing. They said, this is bad. You know, we have a rich landscape of cultural instruments, folk tales. They said, this is bad, this is bad. Someone could just take our instrument, they go away with it. Museums somewhere are now rich, but we don't have any room that we can call our local museum. When you are doing a research on our culture, you have to pay handsomely to take a flight somewhere. What a robbery. So, in fact, we are saying we want visibility, no violent, fight, but we are saying we also want visibility and we want to restore our pride in our culture. That was the whole cause of this festival, Ndau Festival of the Arts. In terms of being peripheral, so and so, we are saying everywhere can be a sender. We only use the word peripheral so that we can prove our existence. And we can actually use conventional terms that, of course, need to be changed. Because no one is in the peripheral. You define the sender from where you are. If I manage to attract a good number of people to my village, it becomes a sender. I'm believing that in any period soon, Chipinge Ndau village is going to be a culture city. As long as we channel our energies towards development, everywhere can be a city. As long as you believe that development is possible anywhere, a city can be created. So we are saying, let's be positive about cultural development despite our location. We talk about rural tourism, which is becoming a boom. Everyone wants to learn about someone's culture. So if you start it backyard, you can improve the local economies. Even the local people can feel appraised, revalued. Because you drive, you take flights to Chipinge so that you can consume local culture. Then they can have pride in their existence. So it's a global concern that we should reset. Let's accept that there is a people who is also equally important somewhere, despite where we are. When you talk about civilization, at times it can be misleading. civilization can be misleading. And this is one of the things that made most indigenous groups feel so low. And finally, they lose their self-esteem. Then someone became a master and servant. You know, that relationship was a result of some misconstruction, both social, economical. So as in Dao Festival of the Arts, I have got this strong feeling that our existence can only be meaningful in a world that tolerates coexistence. That is my feeling.
Thank you, Philip. I think we are also, you know, like with this panel, and we said it at the end of the session earlier today, we kind of need to invite complexity maybe into our festivals or spread complexity, and I think this is also what we are, you know, now like facing, like the realities of everybody, and to be able to value and the human beings in. And I liked very much when you said we need to reset the global versus the local mindset. I want to invite, if you are okay with that, Batkerel into the conversation to even create more complexity, because also where you are in the world, this is sometimes even considered exotic or appropriated, or yeah. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm Batkerel from Mongolia. Yeah, those questions are very thought-provoking. So I'm confused. Where am I and where my country is actually? Because whenever I say I'm from Mongolia, almost there are very few people who know about the country. Maybe some crazy nerds that who knows about Genghis Khan and some nomadic lifestyle. And sometimes I feel happy when they ask, "Oh, do you guys still ride a horse?" And I'm sorry, I live in the city. I don't even know how to ride a horse, but there are some horse riding people in countryside. But I still feel happy, like, oh, at least they know the country that where people ride horses. And yeah, so country is coming from Soviet Union, and democracy is around 30 years old. I think we are trying to get known. The country has this Welcome to Mongolia campaign going on, and making a long list of visa-exempt countries to make all of you come easily without visa. Yeah, so yeah, it's very interesting, and still I'm in confusion to think about where we are, and you know.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I think it's a very good provocation. Where are we, you know, in the world? Julia, do you want to?
Can I please also preface? Sorry, I like to preface things. I'm a context girl. Why do we have the white person in the room, the token? Julia comes from a massive ass festival. And, like, I don't think there's anybody in this room who does not know about the Edinburgh Arts Festival. If you don't, yeah, okay. But why we asked Julia to be on this panel is that she comes from one of the biggest festivals in the world, in a place that is, and I love that you mentioned visas, because I'm in a moment where I have to consider, do I get this visa or not? I love your people because they hate the British, and I'm sorry for anybody who's British, but anybody who has been colonized by the British will be able to understand why I hate the British. And so it was interesting for me to also to have Julia on the panel, because although they have a massive festival, when I first learned about this festival, I didn't learn about the arts festival, the main festival, I learned about the Fringe Festival. And when she explained how the Fringe began is a very interesting thing. And then when we were just having this chat earlier about when I said to her, did Inga speak to you? We'd like you to be on this panel. She said, have you ever seen where our offices are and what our offices look like? So Scotland hates England. And this is where I...
Okay, that's what an introduction. For anyone who's new in the room, hello, welcome first of all. My name is Julia. I work for the Edinburgh International Festival, as Tabile very kindly introduced. I also come to this space from the context of being, I'm actually from Malta originally. And well, it's interesting to talk about feelings towards the British in that context, because actually we are a British colony, but for some reason Maltese people love the British, and we still, in our colonial mindset, still really look up to the British so much. And actually, I had to do a lot of work when I got to the UK to really understand what that meant for me and what that means in the grand scheme of things, to really understand the UK's place in the world. I think it's something we're not taught about in school, about the UK as a colonizer. So interesting that Tabile says this. On the topic of centre and periphery, Edinburgh and Scotland and the festival, it's really interesting to think about, because actually if we had to go back to the beginning, I think it wasn't an obvious place necessarily. Going back to the 40s, I mean, Scotland kind of is on the periphery at that point. It's kind of on the edge of Europe. It's not like London. It didn't have the recognition it has now as this center of the arts and festivals. However, now it's kind of synonymous with the idea of festivals. And I had to say to Tabile, I had to Google actually an image of, this is our building. It's, for anyone who's been to Edinburgh before, you'll maybe know this. The Royal Mile is really our sort of central old high street, and the mile, as it were, starts from the castle and goes all the way down to the Palace of the Holyrood House. It's not actually a mile, but let's not get into the details of that. But our office, the hub, is really right beside the castle at the top of the Royal Mile, and it's a tower. If you had to look at this this building, it's like this insane architecture that is really, I mean, it fits into the aesthetic of Edinburgh. And actually, interestingly, in terms of the landscape of the cityscape of Edinburgh, it's the tallest building. And what does it say? It says a lot about what the festival thinks of, what the city, where the position of the festival within the city, right? We moved into the festival moved into this building in the 90s. And now it's really, this is this crucial spot, right? But also thinking, physically we're in the center of the city. I think in terms of the cultural calendar, but also the literal calendar, we're right in the center of the year in August. But also thinking in a more intangible way, the festivals have become a real economic driver for this city. I've been saying to some of you who've spoken to me, there are hotels in Edinburgh that lose money for 11 months of the year, but it is economically viable for them to stay open, financially viable for them to stay open, because they make so much money in those 3 weeks. Which also I think ties into what I was saying about earlier in the week in my presentation about, the festivals and the cost of coming to the festivals has become so expensive, just because we're reaching the physical limitations really of the city, because it's a city that 500,000 people reside in during the year, but we get 3 million tourists in 3 weeks. But also just to talk to the periphery and the work that the festival does in the Periphery. I want to be clear, this is maybe something that I haven't said, and maybe I should. I mean, I almost feel to some extent that I've had to be apologetic for the festival I represent. But actually, I'm so proud to work for this festival. It's an amazing honor to work for this festival. And this festival does a lot of good work. One of the initiatives that we're doing is called our Cultural Hubs. Our Discovery and Participation Department, which was previously called Learning and Engagement, they reached out to the community centres within the Edinburgh wards. Edinburgh split up into 17 wards. And they offered this invitation, we'd like to come to you. We'd like to bring the art to you and to your communities. And they got a really positive response. A lot of people were interested in this. They really wanted to work with us. But we wanted to make this really meaningful, so we selected just one that we are working in for 1 year in a really sort of concentrated way. We're taking art to the center and working with the center, and also kind of the opposite of that. Bringing the community into the city center is something that we are also focusing on. Our current festival director, Nicola Benedetti, is a classical violinist. She's, a highly successful touring artist, but she's so focused on trying to make this festival more accessible and trying to build community around this festival and trying to bring particularly young people who feel like they don't belong to this festival into the festival. There's this perception of elitism. But 2 years ago, when she started her tenure, the first sort of opening celebration that she wanted to deliver was a big stage in the city center, like right in the city center, in a park called West Princess Street Gardens. Right underneath the castle, there's this amazing image that you can see of the park is kind of in a valley right underneath the castle. So there's this amazing image of like Edinburgh there. We had 500 young people from all around the community. Young musicians, amateur musicians who are still learning their craft. We brought them into the city center to perform as part of our opening of our festival, the international festival. And I think that's so beautiful, to give these kids the opportunity, but also to empower them, to show them, like, you belong here in the city center, and this is your festival as much as anyone's festival, and we want you to be here, and we want you to participate.
Super, thank you. While you were talking, I was also thinking maybe also time is an element of center and periphery, because of course, like the reality of Edinburgh is in this summer, and it's actually related to a lot of the islands also that we are currently working on, where you have like these 2-3 months that the whole infrastructure and the whole place is completely overloaded, but then you have all these kind of months where you have maybe more space to do different things, which you are doing also, I know, but it's just like, what are all the elements that define, again, the center and periphery? We have 15 minutes left, I don't know if people from there, because you see it takes a lot of time to invite complexity into the room, but I think it's amazing to see all these different realities of how this community, again, that we have here now in this space is imagining festivals, art, to connect people and transform societies. So is there anybody who wants to contribute, who also, because I know that many of you are also working within your festivals, and I actually invited José also, but I think he thought there was no space anymore. To reflect on what they are doing in Bolivia on that level. But yeah, if you want to contribute, that would be lovely. But it's open also to the whole space.
Yes, I'm gonna try to be fast. Well, just some context of the cultural, context of Bolivia. we are a very mixed people between all the territories of Bolivia. There is the Andean territory, the Value territory, and the jungle territory. Just it's a way to be general. We are very different between us, but we try to work like a country. Okay. This is a very hard year for us because we are very close from the next choose for the elections of the presidents. We have a lot of problems because of the economy is relatively weak right now. There is a lot of destructions of our lands, of natural lands. The gold mining is destroying the Amazonas. There is burnings in the Amazonas too, but the people from the Andean part of Bolivia, they are moving from their territories, and it's supposed we have a strong ethnic speech in Bolivia. Like we feel very proud about it, but the politics take this speech and use it for their benefits. You know, all these months, all the funds for culture to promote the culture or ethnic cultures and or personal culture, there is not exists anymore because they are using all the money to the promotion of their the campaigns of these politics. Yes, it's supposed we are very proud about our culture, but our different cultures, but they are lonely now. Would like to say we have a living culture, not that culture. And when we talk about center and periphery, because we always talk about it in Bolivia, the people of the different territories say it's not only for the land, it's the land because we are defending our right to live, or human right to live. So, well, that is the only things I want to share you. And yep, very difficult year for Bolivia this year. And so just one thing, and I really appreciate this kind of places to talk about it because probably I'm not the most right man to talk about all the context of Bolivia, but making these connections, having these places to speak and explain some things are the things help us to growing up and continue with all the things we want to do, and yes, and this human right to exist in general. So thank you. Somebody?
If I may add up a little things about center and periphery. My name is Benjamin, for the people who don't know me. I come from a country, it's called Bosnia and Herzegovina. It's in Europe, and most of you would say that it's a center. But it's in Balkans, and it's in center of Balkans. But then again, it's probably periphery. And I have a friend who is probably in toilet or something, and she comes from a neighboring country. At this moment, both of our countries are at the peripheries, geographically at peripheries, and conceptually in many sort of peripheries of Europe as well. At the moment, we are on the periphery of peace, because yesterday they had a protest of 1 million people being in the streets and trying to change the government. Bravo for Belgrade and bravo for Serbian students. Congratulations. We are at the periphery of peace once again, because one of the 3 presidents that we have in our country is being prosecuted for corruption and demolishing the constitution. the constitution that hasn't been written in the last 30 years, so we don't have a constitution, but he's still breaking it. It's a country where logic makes no sense. So maybe we are also at the periphery of logic or sense. So yes, we are Europe, and we don't need visas for past 15 years for most of the countries. And even if we do, it's not so hard to get them. I don't know how, because our politicians are most often very incompetent. But maybe this is something that they do very well. We are also at the periphery because we are Europe, but we don't have a very good funding schemes. And just recently we became part of Creative Europe, which is most probably the best cultural funding scheme in the world. And thank you to our politicians once again for doing something good. And when you talk about center and periphery, I believe that it's very, how to say, oxymoronic, or yeah, there is probably another thing about it, because in my country I'm in the same time center and periphery, and the country is at the same time the center and periphery. And one more thing I had to say, but I forgot it for changing.
Let's give somebody else an opportunity.
Yeah.
So it's interesting about these talks always that we sometimes, I feel like we fail in general to spot the root of things, you know. So when we talk about center and periphery and all the problems associated with it, it's actually power, right? The center of it is power, right? So first actually تحيا الشعب الفلسطيني وتحيا المقاومة الفلسطينية, which means long life to the people of Palestine and long life to the Palestinian resistance. Because actually this is a reflection I'm going to make, and it might be a little bit controversial, but the core of power, the essence of power, is to be applied. Yeah. So in a society there is always a powerful, which is an oppressor by definition, and an oppressed, which is the one who's being powered on, no? And by definition, power is something you have to apply. I mean, if you have power, you're going to be applying it. By nature, it is what is going to be. So being powerful automatically means being an oppressor. It comes together, right? But being on the resistance, as you are in a weak position, it forces you to collaborate, to unite, to create networks, to create, connections, right? And I think we lack sometimes of this essential subversive power, right? Because powerful entities will be oppressors by definitions, and our duty as oppressed, as peripheral, as whatsoever, as cultural agents, which is historically a weakened position, is to unite and to fight against it. Yeah. So the center of it is power. We have to spot where the power is being applied from. That's my.
Thank you so much for the. How are we subservient? I mean subversive. Princess, it's you. Sorry guys, we are running out of time, so I'm only going to take two more after Princess, Marta, and then Aaron.
Okay. I just want to pose questions around the dichotomy of the center and the periphery, and whether it benefits us. Whether it benefits us to think of that dichotomy and where it takes us. I think of the periphery as a powerful space, actually. When you want to allow everyone into the circle, we always kept saying in the sessions, make the circle bigger, so please, so to make the circle bigger, you need to go to the periphery in some sort. You need the more distance you have from the center, the more you open it up for everyone else. And in that case, we were taking turns to get into the center. No, it wasn't a monopoly of one particular person. So it makes the space fluid. So I think I want us to challenge us to aspire towards fluid spaces and what they offer, and how the periphery is also a powerful space for organizing and humanizing those who occupy the center. And I don't think the idea is to decenter and occupy the center. I think the idea for me is to decenter so that we allow this space to become more fluid, so that everybody can occupy it if we do need to occupy the center for particular reasons. But the idea is to decenter, not so you occupy the center, because then it becomes the same colonial logic, going round and round. So I'm just thinking about what fluid spaces can offer us, or the third space that Homi Baba speaks of.
Thank you so much, because I think it's important to look at who is sitting on this panel. And I know that there's people who came here with a sense of expectation, but this is it, is that we cannot, it does not make any logical sense for us to want to become the center, because we will do the same things that the center has always done. I'm going to pass it to Marta. Marta, I need you to be so short. The technicians are very upset with us.
Yeah, I just want to quote shortly Jorge Luis Borges, short text that is called El Aleph. And he speaks about El Aleph, and it could be like the universe being an infinite sphere, or the pluriverse in this case, which center is everywhere and the circumference nowhere.
Okay, I don't like to be the last one, because the most I think about what I am going to say, I don't want it to sound it in any way as a conclusion, but I would like to add just another layer of thinking about center and periphery, especially when I heard Julia talking about that experience with young musicians. I immediately had a thought about our responsibility as festival managers, curators, whatever, with the places, the cities, the villages we are in. If we think about Joaquin's project, I can see the beautifulness of doing the closing party at the main center of the village, and to give that gift to the queer guy. I love that. But at the same time, there's a huge problem with culture being used as a gentrify thing, the gentrification of the cities, the problem with housing, as you said, mostly. And I think we have to be very aware about that. How do we affect the real lives that are happening and has the right to happen in the places we are doing our festivals? And I don't want it to be a conclusion, it's just a thought.
Thank you so much, Aaron. For my closing comment, I'm so sorry to the people that we have invited that you don't have a closing comment. But if I can come full circle in the first... in the first discussion that we had, I brought attention to a Kenyan writer, Ngugi wa Thiong'o, with regards to... about power, the power of the artist, the power of performance and the performance of power. And as a closing idea, I want to go back to Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who also writes about decolonizing the mind. And I recommend that you guys, if you've never heard about him, please read this amazing African human being. And that's my closing, and I pass it on to Inga.
Yeah, and I think that's a beautiful closing, because this is again what also Joaquin was saying when we talk again about territoria, this not only expanding geographies but expanding the mind. So, and I think it's interesting that we went from uncommon spaces, center and periphery, to the human right to exist. This is something that came very strongly out of this conversation, I think, and I think this space is exactly about that. And the conversation always becomes super interesting when we have to end it. So thank you very much, but it doesn't end, because we will continue, all of us together. So thanks. Thanks to everybody who was here, everybody who was listening. Also very important. And let's save the people. Thank you to all the people who helped us.
Thank you.